Theology was known as the queen of the sciences, and Wycliffe's work was always centered on the study of God. He wanted to know who God was and how God interacted with his creation. This led him into some deep waters.
One of the big topics that Wycliffe tackled in his writings was the topic of predestination. That is, who is predestined to go to heaven. And around at the time were a number of different ideas. Some people were saying, essentially, we have free will. So what you do matters. So the choices you make and your own behaviour are what decide whether or not you go to heaven or to hell. So if you do the right religious observances, if you live the right life, then you're going to heaven because of your own deeds. Whereas Wycliffe said, nonsense.
Wycliffe is an unabashed, unashamed predestinarian. He's discovering that the essence of the Christian faith flows out of what he would call the predestinating grace of God.
The concept of predestination begins with the simple idea that God is in complete control of all things, the past, the present, the future. Nothing happens by chance or accident. It's all part of God's master plan. Wycliffe was convinced that if a person is born, it is because God planned it that way. And if a person is born again, it is because God planned it that way too. It's God's choice.
And so his understanding was that God had chosen some people for heaven because salvation is his work, not ours. Whether or not someone gets into heaven is based on what God has chosen, what he has predestined, and what he then carries out in the world.
This is not something new. St. Augustine said exactly the same thing in his writings.
God chose us in Christ before the foundation of the world, not because we were going to be ourselves holy, but so that we might be so.
The influence of Augustine seems clear. Nearer his own time, Thomas Bradwardine wrote a great treatise against the Pelagians. And like Augustine and Bradwardine, Wycliffe believed that the church, the true church, was made up of the predestined.
But St. Augustine recognized, well, this could compromise human free will. And Wycliffe had actually developed a logical system so that human beings could be known eternally by God to be among the elect or among the damned, but human free will still be a powerful, vital force in the Christian life.
It's very clear that people need to make a decision and that people have choices about the way they live or whether or not they believe. But his understanding was nobody could claim credit for going to heaven because it's all God's work.
If becoming a Christian is just a human decision, then Christianity is all about us and our behaviour and our place in the church. But if, as Wycliffe said, the decision is first and foremost a divine decision, our whole view of Christianity changes.
He said, we are saved by God's grace, by his favour and kindness to us. And so he wrote that predestination is not about what the Pope says, it is about where people are with God.
You look at someone to see whether the grace of God in Jesus Christ has actually changed how they think and how they behave.
In my church, as a vicar, I try to teach approximately the same as Wycliffe, that it is all God's work. It's God's plan that underlies everything that's going to happen. And yet the fact that God's choice underlies our behaviour doesn't take away from our personal responsibility to respond and to act.
Working logically from the Bible outwards, Wycliffe was convinced that whatever occurred in all of time and space occurred precisely because God intended it to occur. And yet, at the same time, human beings genuinely have the freedom to act and the freedom to choose. The paradox of predestination is not for the faint-hearted or the bull-headed. But Wycliffe was neither, and his ideas continue to inspire Christians today.